So, uh, what if the biggest lie in business today is, well, the idea that the internet has just completely made prospecting obsolete?
Oh, that is, I mean, that's a massive question right out of the gate.
Right. But think about it. I mean, we are living in this absolute golden age of communication tools,
Yeah, absolutely. The tech we have is incredible.
It is. We've got like automated email sequences, these crazy complex marketing funnels, and algorithms that can supposedly predict what a customer wants before they even know they want it.
Right, the whole predictive buying behavior thing.
Exactly. And yet, and this is the crazy part, if you really look closely at the landscape of modern business right now, companies are facing this raging epidemic.
A total crisis, honestly.
Yeah. They're just staring down the barrel of anemic or sometimes entirely non-existent sales pipelines.
It's just empty calendars everywhere.
Yes. So if you're listening to this and you have ever, sat at your desk staring at an empty calendar, just just hoping and praying the phone would ring.
Or like hoping an inbound lead just magically appears in your inbox.
All right, just so you wouldn't have to make a cold call. Well, you are not alone. And today, we're going to completely reframe your reality.
We really are, because, it's sort of the great paradox of modern commerce, isn't it?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, the easier it has become to broadcast a message globally, like to millions of people instantly, the harder it actually seems to be for businesses to generate real, qualified, human-to-human opportunities.
Oh, totally. We've replaced the hard work of hunting with the illusion of activity.
Yes, the illusion of activity. And that illusion is exactly what we are dismantling today in this deep dive.
Spot on. So in just a couple of sentences, here is what you're getting today. We are pulling insights from the foundational chapters of Mark Hunter's High Profit Prospecting.
Chapter 1 in the intro, specifically.
Right. And we are going to explore why top producers just fundamentally operate differently, how the digital age actually shifted the entire balance of power directly into the hands of the buyer.
Which is a huge shift.
Massive. And why relying on these digital easy buttons to do your heavy lifting is just a guaranteed recipe for failure.
It really is. And I think it's important to note that whether you are like a solo entrepreneur just trying to get your first 10 clients, or you're running a Fortune 500 sales division, this matters.
Oh, 100%. Because taking absolute, unapologetic personal responsibility for your pipeline is literally the single fastest shortcut to taking control of your revenue.
And your stress levels, honestly.
Yeah, and your career. So let's just jump right in.
Let's do it. So the foundational text here, especially, well, there's the foreword by Jeb Blount and the intro by Mike Weinberg. It sets this really stark, almost confrontational tone right out of the gate.
They really do not mince words.
Not at all. They describe this reluctance to prospect not just as like a minor inefficiency, they call it a raging epidemic.
A raging epidemic. I love that phrasing.
Yeah, one that is actively devouring sales performance and just wrecking company cultures from the inside out.
And the numbers they bring to the table to support that epidemic claim are, they're actually staggering.
Yeah, really are. What is it, 80%?
Yeah, 80%. They point out that 80% of salespeople who wash out and get fired in their first year do so for one hyper-specific reason.
And it's probably not what people think it is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not because they are, ignorant about the product they're selling.
Right.
It's not because they lack charisma or communication skills or they don't know the features. It is entirely because they are reluctant to prospect.
They just won't do it.
They simply refuse to initiate contact with strangers.
Wow. Let's really dig into the psychology of that 80% failure rate.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense on the surface.
Right, because when a new hire fails, the instinct of the management team is almost always to look at the training manual,
Sure, yeah. We need better onboarding.
Exactly. They think, oh, we didn't teach them the features well enough, or we need better objection handling scripts.
Right. But the failure isn't intellectual, is it?
No. The failure is rarely intellectual. It's emotional. It is the deep psychological dread of the word no.
Oh, man. Rejection.
Yeah. Human beings are, like, biologically wired to seek tribal acceptance.
We want to belong to the tribe.
Right, and we want to avoid social rejection at all costs. So picking up a phone to just interrupt a stranger's day, it triggers a very real low-level fight-or-flight response.
That makes total sense. It feels like a literal threat to our safety.
Exactly.
And that biological resistance perfectly tees up one of the absolute best concepts in the source material.
Oh, the vegetarian thing.
Yes, they reference this term from Anthony Iannarino, the vegetarian salesperson.
Such a great metaphor.
It is. I want you, the listener, to just picture this for a second.
Yeah.
You have a wolf, right? An apex predator built to hunt.
Okay, picturing a wolf.
But this wolf is just sitting in a meadow eating berries.
Eating berries. That's hilarious.
Because chasing a deer is, it's too much work. It's scary.
Yeah.
And it might result in a failure.
The deer might get away, and then the wolf feels bad about itself.
Exactly. So these salespeople, they just refuse to hunt. They just want to gather what's already growing right in front of them.
And in a modern office setting, what does gathering berries actually look like?
Ooh, tell me. I have some ideas, but I want to hear yours.
Well, it looks like spending 3 hours hyper-customizing a PowerPoint presentation for a client you already have.
Oh, guilty.
Right. Or it looks like endlessly refreshing your email inbox, or like tinkering with the color coding in your CRM.
Yes, the endless CRM organization.
Or having these really long, drawn-out internal meetings about strategy.
Where nothing actually gets done.
Exactly, because these are all highly comfortable, non-threatening activities.
Right. No one is going to yell at you for color coding a spreadsheet.
Right. They allow the vegetarian salesperson to feel super busy and productive without ever having to actually step into the unknown and invite rejection.
So you're basically just servicing requests rather than creating demand.
Precisely. You're reactive, not proactive.
It's the ultimate form of professional procrastination. You are doing these urgent but completely unimportant tasks to avoid the one vital task.
It really is.
I think about it a lot like going to the gym.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. Because nobody's natural biological default state is waking up at 5 a.m., strapping on freezing cold running shoes, and hitting a treadmill to subject their body to physical stress.
Definitely not mine.
Mine neither. Our baseline desire is just to stay into the warm blankets.
Always.
So if you don't aggressively block out your calendar and literally set an ironclad appointment with yourself to prospect, those comfortable tasks will just expand to fill all your time.
The gym analogy is incredibly apt, honestly, because it really highlights the necessity of structured discipline over, fleeting motivation.
Right, because motivation always fades.
Exactly. If you wait until you feel like prospecting, well, you will just have an empty pipeline forever.
Because you'll never feel like it.
Never. But let's look at how management usually handles this, because it's so backwards.
Oh, it's a disaster.
Yeah. When a sales leader looks at the dashboard and sees that empty pipeline, what's the universal reaction?
Total panic.
Total panic. And they resort to the oldest management tactic in the book, volume and threats.
Oh, yeah. Dial for dollars.
Right. They start pacing the floor, demanding more calls, threatening quotas, pushing people to just, hit the phones.
Which the text brilliantly compares to pushing a rope.
Yes. Such a perfect image.
It is, because you can exert all the force you want from one end, but it just bunches up and goes absolutely nowhere.
Precisely. Because if that biological fear of rejection is the roadblock we talked about earlier, yelling at someone doesn't remove the fear.
No, it just adds a new fear.
Right, it compounds it. Now, the salesperson is afraid of the prospect's rejection and the manager's wrath.
It's a lose-lose situation.
Exactly. And without giving the team a real structural roadmap, like teaching them how to research, how to craft a compelling opening hook, how to interrupt gracefully.
Right, the actual skills of prospecting.
Right. If you don't give them that, applying pressure only creates rampant anxiety.
And what happens when they have that anxiety?
It forces salespeople to make desperate, low-quality touches just to hit a metric, which honestly burns through your total addressable market and damages the brand.
Okay, I hear all of this, and the psychology makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
But, and this is the pushback I think a lot of people listening might have. If I'm a business owner, or I'm a VP of sales, and I am spending, I don't know, $200,000 a month on this brilliant marketing team.
Okay, yeah.
And they're running incredible, highly targeted digital ad campaigns. Shouldn't the product just sell itself?
The classic objection.
I mean, shouldn't marketing be filling that pipeline so my sales team can just act as closers?
Yeah.
Like, why do we need to hunt if we're literally paying marketing to trap the game for us?
Well, that specific mindset right there is exactly what has created this epidemic.
Really?
Yes. The belief that a sufficient marketing budget can entirely eliminate the need for human-to-human prospecting is, it's a seductive fantasy.
It sounds so nice, though.
It sounds wonderful, but Marketing's job is to create brand awareness, right? To educate the market at scale and generate a baseline of inbound leads.
Okay.
But relying entirely on marketing, that is surrendering complete control of your company's destiny to a Google algorithm or, a Facebook ad policy.
Oh, wow. Yeah, when you put it like that, it sounds incredibly risky.
It's terrifying, which brings us to this phenomenal story Mark Hunter tells in the first chapter.
Oh, I love this story.
Because it perfectly illustrates how this fantasy is actively sold to professionals every single day.
Yes, the hotel ballroom story.
Mm-hmm.
Let me set the scene for the listener, because we have all been in this exact room.
Every single one of us.
You've got that horribly overly patterned carpet, the stale coffee sitting in the back, the freezing cold air conditioning.
Always freezing.
Always. And there are about 200 salespeople and business owners in the audience, and they're completely mesmerized by these so-called sales experts up on stage.
Ah, yes. The ballroom mirage.
The ballroom mirage. It is a scene that plays out in convention centers every single weekend.
And it really is a mirage because these experts are up on stage peddling this absolute myth.
And they keep repeating this one magical phrase over and over. Cold calling is dead.
The 4 magic words.
Right. They are telling this exhausted audience that if you just, build a massive social media presence, post enough thought leadership on LinkedIn, and conveniently use their proprietary automated email software,
Naturally.
customers will just effortlessly flock to you. You'll just wake up with a calendar full of meetings.
It's the dream.
And Hunter notes a very specific tragic detail in the book. Every time a speaker says cold calling is dead, the audience collectively nods in this deep, visceral relief.
Let's dissect the psychology of that collective nod because it's so important.
Yeah, please do.
Why is an entire room of highly intelligent professionals so eager to believe something that clearly sounds too good to be true?
Because they want an easy button.
Yes, but more than that, because they are exhausted, they are burned out by the daily grind, they're bruised by constant rejection, and they're frustrated by these archaic metrics their managers force on them.
They just want the pain to stop.
Exactly. They're desperate for a magic pill that removes the pain of the job. So when a confident person on a stage with a microphone tells them that the hard, uncomfortable thing they hate doing is actually dead and outdated,
It removed their guilt.
completely removes their guilt. It validates their avoidance.
It's like, oh, I'm not failing because I'm avoiding the hard work.
Yeah.
I'm just using the wrong software.
Right. It's not my fault.
It lets them entirely off the hook.
Exactly. But the danger here is that this relief is so temporary while the damage to their pipeline is permanent.
Right.
And the sheer hypocrisy of the people selling this message on stage is just astounding.
Oh, the hypocrisy is my absolute favorite part of the story.
It's so good.
Because during the Q&A at the end of this ballroom session, someone in the audience finally breaks the spell.
A brave soul.
Very brave. They stand up and ask a highly pointed question to these gurus. They say, wait a minute. You're telling us to scrape emails and send out automated blasts to thousands of people we don't know.
Right.
Isn't that just cold calling, but using email instead of the phone?
Got him.
And Hunter is just laughing from the back of the room because the veil completely drops. These internet gurus who are claiming outbound is dead are actually just doing supercharged, highly impersonal outbound through massive email blasts.
Exactly. They are taking a high-quality, nuanced human interaction and replacing it with a low-quality, high-volume spam cannon.
A spam cannon. That's exactly what it is.
And they are charging the audience thousands of dollars to learn how to do it.
It's criminal.
It really is. But the long-term career damage of buying into this flavor of the day magic pill is severe for the people in that room.
How so?
Because if you believe the lie that your social media presence is a direct substitute for direct prospecting, you forfeit your autonomy.
You give up your power.
Yes. You become a passive participant in your own career. You are now entirely dependent on a platform's algorithm or the marketing department's budget or just like a viral trend.
You literally transition from being a business builder to being a victim of circumstance.
That's perfectly said.
And it doesn't just damage individual careers, right? It can literally bankrupt entire companies.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources provide this terrifying, real-world example of what happens when a highly successful company drinks this exact Kool-Aid and stops doing the hard work.
The Chicago case study.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Chicago-based services company. So Hunter is walking through John Wayne Airport and literally bumps into the president of this company.
Right, just a random airport encounter.
And this executive is not having a good day. He is in a state of sheer panic about the survival of his business.
Total panic.
And the backstory here is what makes it so relevant to everyone listening. Prior to this airport meeting, this company had experienced massive, explosive growth.
Like off the charts.
Yeah. The industry as a whole was in a huge boom cycle. And during this golden period, the company's VP of sales was, strutting around, bragging to everyone about his team of absolute superstars.
Because they were closing so many deals.
Exactly. Because the economy was hot, the phone was just ringing off the hook, inbound leads were flooding in.
That everyone wants to buy.
So what did these superstar salespeople actually do? They stopped prospecting.
They took off their running shoes.
They threw them away. They just walked away from the hunt entirely because they had a massive pile of berries handed to them every single morning.
Right. And this illustrates one of the most insidious traps in business, the misattribution of success.
Ooh, explain that. Misattribution of success.
Well, when a rising tide lifts all boats, it is incredibly easy for a captain to think they are a genius navigator, right?
Oh, yes.
The marketing department at the Chicago company took full credit for all the inbound leads. They just assumed their brilliant copy and ad placement were the sole drivers of all that revenue.
Of course they did.
And the VP of sales looked at his team's close rates and assumed he had just hired a fleet of prodigies.
But they weren't prodigies.
No. They weren't prodigies. They were just order takers in a booming market.
They were just answering the phone.
Exactly. They were processing transactions, not selling.
They were cashing in lottery tickets and thinking they actually earned a paycheck.
Right. But, as we all know, economies are cyclical.
Always.
The market eventually stagnated. The good times stopped rolling.
The phone stopped ringing.
It went dead. And the private equity investment firms that owned the company started getting very restless because the numbers were dropping fast.
Uh-oh. So what was the company's brilliant solution to this?
Oh, this is the best part. They threw more money at marketing.
Because of course they did.
They figured, hey, marketing got us all those leads before, so let's just double their budget and the leads will magically come back.
Which fundamentally misunderstands the mechanism of the market, doesn't it?
Completely. Marketing can amplify demand when it exists, but it struggles to manufacture it from thin air during a downturn.
Right.
So after 2 years of aggressively increased marketing spend, the business didn't return. It vanished.
Poof. Gone.
And where did it go?
Eh.
It went directly to their competitors.
Wow. Why? What did the competitors do differently?
Because the competitors possessed the discipline that the Chicago company lacked. Even when times were good, the competitors maintained their outbound prospecting efforts. They never stopped hunting.
It's the classic fable of the grasshopper and the ant, but played out with literally millions of dollars on the line.
Exactly.
I think of it like a farmer.
Okay, lay it on me.
You have a farmer who walks out into his field, and it happens to be pouring rain. The soil is super rich. The crops are practically jumping out of the ground.
Life is good.
Life is great.
Yeah.
He looks at this abundance and thinks, look at all of this water. Everything is great. I don't need to plant any new seeds today. The work is just done for me.
So he takes the day off.
He goes inside, sits in his recliner, and relaxes. But weather changes. When the rain stops and a 3-month drought hits, he starves.
Because he has no new crops coming up.
Exactly. But the farmer down the road, who was out in the mud, planting seeds even while it was raining, he has a harvest. You have to plant seeds regardless of the weather today because you are going to need to eat tomorrow.
That analogy cuts right to the core of pipeline management because the revenue you realize this quarter is almost entirely the result of the prospecting you did 2 quarters ago.
There's a lag.
There is a temporal delay in sales, always. Good economies create weak habits.
That's a quote to write down. Good economies create weak habits.
It's so true, though. When the phone is ringing on its own, the specific conversational muscles required to, interrupt a prospect, uncover a hidden pain point, and build a real business case, those muscles begin to atrophy.
You lose the skill.
You do. And when the boom inevitably ends, a company that has stopped prospecting is entirely unequipped to survive.
They literally forgot how to hunt, and the competitors just ate their lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to challenge a premise here.
Okay, go for it.
Is prospecting really just about survival? Like, is it exactly the same as it was 20 or 30 years ago, just this brutal numbers game of banging on doors and smiling and dialing? Or has the fundamental nature of the job actually changed?
That's a great question.
Because if I'm a listener right now, I'm thinking, look, I don't want to just be a telemarketer.
Right, nobody wants that. And it has fundamentally changed. That is a crucial distinction we need to make. It is not the same job it was in 1995.
Okay, how so?
Well, the author notes this stark comparison. 25 years ago, working in Minneapolis, he could literally make one or two phone calls or do a quick drop-in visit to a corporate office and walk away with a new account.
Wow, one or two calls.
The friction was incredibly low, but today, landing that exact same account requires vastly more effort. It requires a sophisticated multi-channel approach, utilizing phone, email, and social touchpoints, and a much longer time horizon.
So why the dramatic shift? Did business people just get ruder over the last few decades?
I mean, maybe.
Or did attention spans just disappear because of smartphones? Like,
Yeah.
what caused this massive increase in friction?
Well, most people point to technology as the culprit. They blame spam filters, caller ID, or, social media distraction.
Sure, it's easy to blame the tech.
But the evolution of prospecting wasn't actually caused by new technology. The technology merely facilitated a profound shift in knowledge.
A shift in knowledge. Unpack that for me.
If we go back decades, the salesperson held all the cards. They were the absolute gatekeeper of information.
Okay.
If a buyer wanted to know the specifications of a machine or the pricing tiers or how it compared to a competitor's model, they had no choice. They had to grant an audience to the salesperson. They had to take the meeting.
Because they couldn't just look it up. The salesperson was essentially a walking encyclopedia.
Exactly.
You couldn't Google the answer, so
Yeah.
you literally had to invite the encyclopedia into your office and offer them a coffee.
Precisely. The power dynamic was heavily skewed in favor of the seller. But today, the buyer holds the knowledge.
All right, the internet changed everything.
The buyer has the entire internet in their pocket. Before you ever even pick up the phone to call them, they can read peer reviews of your software, they can download your competitor's pricing matrix, they can watch video tutorials of your product failing.
Oh yeah, Reddit is brutal for that.
It is. And they have the ability to make a massive B2B purchase online without ever speaking to a human being. The power dynamic has completely inverted.
This is the existential crisis of the modern sales professional right here.
It really is.
If the buyer already has all the knowledge, if they already know my price and my competitor's price, what on earth is my role?
Why are you there?
Yeah, why do I even exist in the transaction? Am I just there to process the paperwork and take a commission?
Well, if a salesperson operates like an encyclopedia today, yes, they are completely obsolete.
They'll be replaced by an AI in 5 minutes.
Faster than that.
Yeah.
The role is no longer about gatekeeping information. It is entirely about establishing confidence.
Confidence.
Yes. Because the modern buyer is drowning in information. They are actually paralyzed by the fear of making the wrong choice.
Analysis paralysis.
Exactly. They have 15 tabs open, and every vendor claims to be the leading solution. A prospect who doesn't have confidence in you, who doesn't trust your specific expertise, isn't a prospect at all.
What are they then?
They are barely a contact in a database. Your job as a prospector today is to cut through the noise, synthesize the overwhelming information they're looking at, and establish absolute trust that you understand their specific, nuanced business problem better than a search engine does.
This clicks so perfectly with a realization Hunter had back in 1998 when he started his consulting firm.
Oh, the closing versus prospecting thing.
Yes. He noticed a very specific pattern when companies would hire him. The leadership would always bring him in and say, hey, our team is great, but we need you to teach them advanced closing techniques.
Teach us how to close.
Right. We need help with negotiating. We just keep losing deals at the finish line.
Everyone thinks closing is the problem.
But when he actually audited their sales process, he realized that closing and negotiating problems are almost always a complete mirage.
They aren't the real issue.
Not at all. They're just symptoms of terrible prospecting.
This is one of the most misunderstood mechanics in business, I think. A tough negotiation is usually just the penalty you pay for a weak initial approach.
Exactly. I love that. The penalty for a weak approach. If you build unshakable confidence at the very beginning, at the prospecting stage,
Right, if you do the work early on.
if you truly qualify them, if you uncover a pain point they didn't even realize they had, and you establish yourself as a trusted advisor for the very first interaction, the negotiation stage is practically
It
eliminated.
disappears.
They aren't going to grind you down on price because they value the confidence and certainty you provide.
Yep.
If you are constantly having to negotiate, drop your price, and throw in freebies to get a deal done, It means you prospected poorly.
You let the wrong people into your pipeline.
Exactly. You attracted what the book calls an economic buyer, someone who only cares about finding the cheapest commodity, rather than a solution buyer who is willing to pay a premium for confidence and results.
And understanding the difference between an economic buyer and a solution buyer requires nuance,
It's a skill.
which leads directly to the final and perhaps most vital argument of the chapter. Sales is an art, not a science.
Oh, man. I know a lot of Silicon Valley tech companies and operations managers who would furiously disagree with that statement.
Oh, they hate it.
There's an entire industry dedicated to turning sales into a rigid scientific algorithm. You just want predictability.
They crave predictability, and they try to engineer it through extreme micromanagement.
Tracking every single click.
Right. But that is exactly why so many highly funded tech startups burn through cash and fail when it comes to complex prospecting.
Why is that?
Because if sales were a pure science, a matter of just applying a mathematical formula, anyone could simply follow a rigid, step-by-step checklist and guarantee success.
You could just hire 1 million minimum wage workers to read a script.
Exactly. You could script every single word, mandate exactly how many milliseconds to pause before responding, map every keystroke, and the revenue results would be perfectly identical across the board.
But you can't.
No, you can't.
Because you are dealing with the most volatile variable on Earth. Human beings.
Humans are messy.
They really are. Human emotion, the timing of a company's budget cycle, changing macroeconomic markets, a buyer's personal biases or ego. These things cannot be mapped perfectly onto a spreadsheet.
No algorithm can account for all of that.
You cannot A/B test your way out of needing emotional intelligence.
It's so true. Treating sales like a strict, unyielding science actually creates terrible behavioral incentives, too.
How so? Like, what does it do to the reps?
Well, it leads to this robotic, bare minimum attitude among the sales team. You see salespeople who just want the scientific checklist.
But easy way out again.
Right. They tell their manager, look, just tell me how many calls to make today, tell me exactly how many emails to send, give me the exact script, and I'll do exactly that.
They turn their brains off.
Completely. They only do what is strictly necessary to hit their daily CRM metric, and nothing more.
And what happens then?
Well, that compliance-driven attitude guarantees that one day they will wake up to an empty pipeline. Why? Because they aren't actually connecting with human beings, they are just checking boxes on a screen to keep their boss off their back.
I think about it like cooking.
Oh, I like food analogies. Go ahead.
If we look at the science of cooking, right? Science is baking a cake from a box mix.
Okay.
You go to the grocery store, you buy the cardboard box, and you follow the rigid scientific instructions on the back. Add exactly 1 cup of water, add 3 eggs, stir for 2 minutes, bake at 350 degrees for 30 minutes.
Very predictable.
Exactly. If you do that, you get a completely predictable, perfectly average result.
Right.
Every single time. It's fine. It's edible.
But it's just a box cake.
Right. And no one is paying top dollar at a Michelin star restaurant for a box mix cake.
The output is entirely commoditized.
Exactly. Art, on the other hand, is being a master chef.
Ah, okay.
The chef understands the science, sure, but they operate on a much higher level. They taste the sauce as it simmers. They adjust the seasoning on the fly based on, the specific acidity of the tomatoes they got that morning, the humidity in the kitchen, and the known preferences of the VIP guest sitting at table 4.
They're constantly adapting.
They adapt. They create something of incredibly high, unique value. If you want to acquire high-profit customers, you cannot be a box mix baker just reading a script.
You have to be the chef.
You have to be the chef. You have to read the room, listen to the subtle hesitation in a prospect's voice, and adjust your recipe in real time.
And that artistry, that ability to synthesize information and adapt dynamically is exactly what justifies a premium price in the marketplace.
Yes.
When a customer gladly pays a premium for your product or service, they are not just buying the software or the machinery.
What are they buying then?
They are paying for the expertise, the mitigation of risk, the confidence, and the tailored solution that only the chef can provide. They are explicitly not paying for the robotic execution of a checklist.
That is such a crucial mindset shift.
It is. The art of sales requires traits that an algorithm simply doesn't possess. It requires relentless curiosity about other people's businesses.
You have to actually care.
You do. It requires the adaptability to pivot a conversation based on a subtle shift in tone of voice. It requires immense emotional resilience.
Bouncing back from the no.
Exactly. And crucially, it requires traveling down two paths simultaneously, mastering the traditional methods of the phone and personalized email, while seamlessly weaving in the modern methods of a strong digital presence.
So it's not either or, it's both.
It has to be both.
So let's try to bring all these threads together into a single cohesive framework. What is the grand takeaway from this first chapter?
The big synthesis.
Yeah, the big synthesis. If you are listening to this right now, whether you are driving to work or sitting at a desk wondering how to hit your quarterly numbers, the soul of this text is this.
Okay, lay it on us.
While the tools of communication have rapidly, almost violently evolved, we have more ways to instantly send a message than ever before in human history.
True.
And while the buyer has gained unprecedented, unlimited access to knowledge, the fundamental, biological, human requirement to actively hunt remains completely unchanged.
The environment has changed, but the necessity of the hunt has not.
Beautifully said. True business security, the kind that actually lets you sleep soundly at night, does not come from a magical internet algorithm.
It's not coming to save you.
It is not. It does not come from waiting for the phone to ring during a booming economy, just hoping the rain never stops.
Because the rain always stops.
It always stops. True security comes from the deliberate willingness to take absolute personal responsibility for your own pipeline.
Owning it completely.
It comes from rejecting the comfort of being a vegetarian and embracing the artistry required to build genuine, unshakable confidence with your prospects in a world where they're just overwhelmed with noise.
We have to stop sitting in the back of hotel ballrooms, nodding along, looking for the easy button.
No more mirages.
Right. We have to recognize that taking control of your prospecting is quite literally taking control of your life.
It's empowering, really.
It is the ultimate form of professional autonomy. When you know how to hunt, you are never at the mercy of the market or the marketing department or your manager. You own your destiny.
That is a wildly powerful place to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a blast.
The insights from Mark Hunter's work are just invaluable for anyone looking to build a robust, sustainable business that thrives in absolutely any economic weather.
100%.
But now that we've established that we absolutely must hunt to survive and that the easy buttons are just a mirage, it begs a very uncomfortable question.
Oh, here we go.
What are the specific comforting lies and elaborate myths we tell ourselves on a daily basis to avoid actually doing the work?
Ouch. That's a heavy one to end on.
We'll leave you to ponder your own excuses until next time. Keep planting those seeds, even when it's raining. What if the very things you believe make you a dedicated business professional are actually the exact excuses destroying your future growth?
That is a terrifying thought, right?
It really is. And welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping right into this because, honestly, it's huge.
Oh, absolutely. It's the kind of thing that makes you rethink your entire work week.
Yeah. So today, we are unpacking Chapter 2 of Mark Hunter's book, High Profit Prospecting. The chapter is called The Myths and Surprising Facts About Finding New Customers.
Right.
And we're basically going to expose the 6 toxic myths that just completely paralyze professionals.
Yeah.
The things that make people avoid the hunt for new business.
Yeah, and more importantly, we're going to talk about why breaking these specific illusions is absolutely critical for you, if you're serious about entrepreneurship or just basic business survival.
Exactly. And to really set the stage for this, Hunter uses this incredible catalyst story right at the beginning of the chapter.
Oh, the Michigan story. That one is brutal.
It's so brutal. So he talks about this guy, Dennis, right? And Dennis is the manager of a field sales office in Michigan.
Yep.
And on paper, everything looks fine. But the crazy detail here is that this entire office, this whole team, relied on just 3 customers.
Which is just, structural fragility at its absolute worst. 3 customers holding up a whole office.
Right. So he has a team of 4 inside salespeople, plus Dennis himself is the manager. So 5 people total.
Right.
And when Hunter looks at their actual data, he finds out that out of all those people, there was absolutely 0 prospecting going on. None.
0 outbound effort. And what's fascinating here is when you look at why this happens, right? Because an entire team doesn't just spontaneously decide to stop doing their job.
Exactly. What were they telling themselves?
Well, Hunter actually asked them,
Yeah.
and he got this perfect psychological cross-section of excuses. Like, one of them claimed they just didn't know who to call. They said they lacked the data.
Oh, sure. Blame the database.
Right. Another one cited a lack of, formal training. Like, the company hadn't taught them how to pick up a phone.
Mhm.
Another one said they just didn't have time. They were too busy with existing stuff. But then,
Wait, then there was the fourth one, right?
yeah, the fourth one was actually honest. They admitted they were just plain scared.
Just terrified of rejection.
Exactly. And the manager, Dennis, was stuck in the exact same loop. So you had this whole culture of avoidance.
And, I mean, the outcome is just devastating.
Yeah.
Because they lost their biggest account out of the three, and within 60 days, that entire team, the whole field office, was out of work.
60 days. From a functioning office to total unemployment because they wouldn't prospect.
It's wild. But this paralyzing fear, it doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's fueled by this dangerous foundational belief that new customers will somehow just magically appear.
Right, like the universe will just reward you with revenue because you exist.
Exactly. And that leads us directly into the 6 myths that form the core of this deep dive, because these are the excuses people use to justify that passivity.
Oh yeah, let's get into them because they are everywhere.
So, key idea 1, prospecting myth number 1, it's the one and done myth, also known as spraying and praying.
The absolute classic.
Right. So this is basically making a massive blind blitz of outreach, like sending 1,000 templated emails or leaving 50 identical voicemails in one afternoon.
Yeah, just absolute sheer volume with zero strategy.
Exactly. And then they just sit back and wait for the phone to ring. And when nothing happens, they complain that, prospecting doesn't work.
Because of course they do.
It's like going to the gym for 6 hours on January 1st, looking in the mirror on January 2nd, telling everyone that fitness is a complete scam.
That is the perfect analogy.
But okay, let me push back on this a
So
little.
go for it.
Because if I'm a founder and my pipeline is empty, isn't some action better than no action? Like, why is this specific method, this spray and pray thing, so uniquely destructive?
Well, the reason it's so destructive is actually tied to the psychological feedback loop it creates.
Okay, how so?
So when someone does a massive blind blitz, they get this false sense of accomplishment. It feels like they worked really hard, right?
Yeah, their outbox is huge.
Right. But because there was zero targeting or personalization, the effort is entirely wasted. Nobody responds.
Crickets.
Exactly. And instead of looking at their terrible strategy, the salesperson complains that the system is broken. They tell themselves and their peers that cold outreach is dead.
Oh, so they validate their own failure.
Yes. The myth becomes a self-fulfilling reality. Just like Dennis's team, they probably tried one terrible email blast, got no replies, and decided prospecting was impossible.
So the practical takeaway here for you listening is that consistency beats intensity, right?
Every single time.
You cannot rely on one-off blasts. You have to build a sustained, rhythmic approach to outreach, doing a little bit every single day.
Because when the one-and-done approach inevitably fails, people just retreat to their comfort zones. Which leads us perfectly into the second myth.
Right. Prospecting myth number 2. I'll prospect when I'm done taking care of my existing customers.
Oh, man. The ultimate noble excuse.
It really is. Because professionals use their current clients as a human shield to avoid prospecting.
They absolutely do.
They view hunting for new business as this, like task for newbies. And they use their dedication to existing accounts to look incredibly busy and highly responsible.
It's the perfect disguise for fear.
But, okay, let's unpack this for a second, because anyone listening who runs a business is going to say, wait, isn't retention cheaper than acquisition?
Sure.
Shouldn't existing clients be the absolute priority? Like, I have to keep the people paying me right now happy.
And that is a very fair point. But while retention is obviously vital, using it as an excuse to avoid prospecting guarantees pipeline death.
Pipeline death. That's a strong phrase.
It is, but it's true. Because you have to connect it to the bigger picture. Customer attrition clients leaving is a natural law of business.
Right. Companies get bought out, budgets get cut.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with how good your service is, their leadership changes, they go bankrupt. If you only prioritize existing customers, you are effectively choosing a slow, comfortable path to going out of business.
Because eventually, that well is going to dry up.
Yes, the attrition will catch up to you.
So what's the fix? How do you balance it?
You have to time block your calendar. Prospecting cannot be this magical thing you do only when all your other work is finished.
Because the other work is literally never finished.
Never. There is always another email from a client.
Yeah, which connects perfectly to the next point. Because if you claim you have to finish existing work first, you inevitably fall into the trap of claiming you have no time at all.
Oh, the time excuse.
Yeah.
The best one.
Which is key idea 3. Prospecting myth number 3. It's impossible to have a dedicated time to prospect.
People love this one.
They really do. They describe this chaos of the modern workday, right?
Yeah.
They claim their days are just too unpredictable.
Yeah, they're like, my clients demand last-minute pivots. My manager is always asking for stuff.
Right, Slack messages are blowing up, so they
Yeah.
say scheduling a dedicated block of time is just impossible.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, what they are actually doing is living in a purely reactive mode.
Reactive mode, meaning they aren't driving the car.
Exactly. Allowing others to dictate your schedule means you've completely surrendered control of your own success. You're just living in triage.
It's like saying you don't have time to stop for gas because you're driving too fast.
That's a great way to put it.
Like eventually the engine just shuts off. You have to put gas in the car.
And what's really interesting here is that management is often inadvertently at fault for this.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, think about it. Sales leaders often make sudden, urgent demands, like drop everything and give me a pipeline forecast right now.
Oh yeah, the 4 p.m. Friday fire drill.
Exactly. And that completely disrupts the salesperson's consistency. It pulls them off the proactive work to do reactive busy work.
So as a practical takeaway, you have to enforce boundaries, like hard boundaries.
You absolutely have to.
You have to treat a prospecting time block with the exact same non-negotiable reverence as a meeting with your absolute biggest client.
Yes. If you had a meeting with your top account, you wouldn't let a random Slack message interrupt you.
Never. You'd shut your door and turn off your phone.
You have to do the exact same thing for your prospecting time, because your next biggest account is sitting inside that block of time.
That is such a powerful mindset shift. But, this reactive mode, this chaos, it's often a luxury, right?
Oh, completely. It's a luxury afforded by past successes.
Which introduces a highly dangerous corporate delusion. And that is myth number 4.
The survivorship bias myth.
Exactly. Key idea 4. Prospecting myth number 4. We've made it this long without having to prospect.
This one is so insidious because it's built on a kernel of truth.
Right. In the book, there's this story of a 10-year-old company that survived purely on luck.
Yeah, circumstantial momentum.
They had great relationships early on, they were in the right place at the right time, and they honestly believed this momentum would just last forever.
Because why wouldn't they? They've been growing for a decade. But this is the danger of survivorship bias.
Yeah, explain that a bit more.
So a stagnant industry, or a really lucky streak, it completely masks the fact that you don't have a sustainable acquisition engine.
It's like coasting downhill and thinking you have a really powerful engine.
Exactly. And the second you hit flat ground or a hill, you just stop. And that's exactly what happened to the company in the book.
Right. Hunter points out that they only survived to their 20th year by merging. They had to get acquired just to gain access to a sales force that actually knew how to prospect.
Because their luck ran out.
But wait, let me challenge this. Because there are a lot of founders who truly rely entirely on word of mouth.
Oh, for sure.
And isn't organic growth like the holy grail? If your customers are selling for you, why would you waste time cold calling?
It sounds great in theory, but relying solely on word of mouth means you are completely surrendering control of your company's destiny to outside forces.
You have no lever to pull.
Exactly. If you need to grow by 20% next quarter, you can't just call your clients and tell them to talk about you 20% more.
Right. You're just waiting and hoping.
Hope is not a scalable business strategy.
It really isn't. So the practical takeaway for you is never mistake a lucky streak for a strategy. You have to build a proactive acquisition engine even when times are really good.
Especially when times are good.
Yeah. And this links directly to the quality of service, which brings us to the 5th myth.
The customer service myth.
Yes, key idea 5. Prospecting myth number 5. If we provide great customer service, we won't have to prospect.
This is such a comforting lie that people tell themselves.
It really is. It's this belief that simply being, great at what you do will naturally draw in enough new business to sustain growth.
Like the universe is just monitoring your quality and sending checks in the mail.
Exactly. But this raises an important question, right?
Yeah, because we have to distinguish between maintaining a reputation and actively generating revenue.
Oh, tell me more about that.
So, superior customer service is a prerequisite for keeping the clients you already have. It stops them from leaving because they're mad at you.
Right. It prevents churn.
Exactly. But it rarely covers the unforeseen circumstances that cause clients to leave anyway, like we talked about earlier, budget cuts, bankruptcies, private equity buyouts.
Their new CEO brings in their own vendor, and suddenly you're out.
Yes, and your amazing customer service history doesn't stop that from happening.
It's like building the most beautiful, incredible restaurant in the world, right? 5-star food, amazing decor. But you never put a sign on the door, and you refuse to tell anyone the address.
That is exactly what it's like.
It doesn't matter how good the food is if no one knows you exist.
Right. The excellence of the product does not magically create a distribution channel.
So what's the practical takeaway here?
You have to use your excellent customer service as the fuel for your prospecting.
Ah, is the fuel, not the replacement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You ask for referrals, you build case studies, you reach out to prospects and say, hey, we just achieved this incredible ROI for a company just like yours.
You weaponize your competence.
Yes. You actively use it. You don't hide behind it.
But, once professionals realize they can't hide behind customer service and they can't rely on luck, they often resort to the ultimate personal excuse.
Oh, the final boss of excuses.
Yes. Key idea 6. Prospecting myth number 6. Only born salespeople can prospect.
The biological determinism myth. I hate this one so much.
It's so persistent, though. This persistent myth of the natural-born closer, the extrovert who can talk to anyone.
Pop culture really reinforces it, right? The slick-talking, charismatic genius.
And what's crazy is how this actually discourages struggling professionals. Like, when an introverted salesperson hears someone else described as a natural, it completely validates their desire to quit.
Oh, it gives them an instant out.
Right. They think, well, I just don't have the DNA for this, so it's not my fault I'm failing.
It is the ultimate release valve for accountability.
So let's debunk this. Is there such a thing as innate sales genetics?
Absolutely not. The data just doesn't support it. Successful prospecting is not some magical personality trait.
It's not about being the loudest person at a networking event.
No. In fact, some of the best prospectors in the world are highly analytical introverts. Because prospecting is a learned process.
The process.
It is deeply rooted in discipline, structure, and emotional resilience. It's about researching a prospect, crafting a clear message, and executing a sequence of touch points over and over again without letting rejection destroy your ego.
So it's basically math and consistency.
It is entirely math and consistency. You don't need charisma to send a highly researched, perfectly timed email.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now?
It means you're out of excuses.
Exactly. You do not need to change your personality to find new business.
Right.
You don't need a personality transplant.
No.
You just need to commit to a process.
And honestly, dismantling these 6 myths completely clears the psychological slate.
It does. It forces you to look in the mirror.
Yeah, because once you strip away the spray and pray, the existing client's excuse, the fake busy schedule, the luck, the customer service shield, and the personality myth, you can finally look at the core truth of the chapter.
Which brings us to the synthesis of this entire deep dive. How do we tie all 6 of these myths together?
Well, the soul of this chapter is really one memorable insight, and it's that prospecting avoidance is never about a lack of leads.
Right. It's never about the market being bad.
Never. It is always about a lack of accountability. Every single myth we discussed today is just a highly creative way to dress up fear as responsibility.
Wow. Dressing up fear as responsibility, that is so accurate. Because it sounds so much better to say, I'm too dedicated to my current clients, than it is to admit, I'm terrified of picking up the phone.
Oh, yeah. It protects the ego, but it starves the business.
It does. And recognizing these myths in your own daily habits is genuinely the ultimate shortcut to unlocking massive growth.
You have to catch yourself in the act of making the excuse.
Exactly. So we want to leave you with a final provocative thought, something you can test yourself on right now.
Yeah. I want you to think about your own calendar right now.
Open it up in your mind.
Right. If a total stranger looked at exactly where you spent your time last week, what would they think? Would they think you are actively building a business, or would they think you are just managing the decay of an old one?
Oof. Managing the decay. That is a heavy question, but it's exactly what you need to ask yourself. Are you building, or are you just managing the decay?
The calendar doesn't lie.
It really doesn't. Well, now that we've destroyed the excuses holding you back, you are absolutely ready for the real work.
The fun part.
Yes, because next time we dive into the psychology of motivation and uncover the major factors that actually drive successful lead generation.
It's going to be a great session. You definitely won't want to miss it.
So until then, take a hard look at that calendar, block out some time, and go find some new business. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Right, the classic quote.
Yeah, but we hear it so much we kind of just tune it out. you
Yeah.
know? But I want you, the listener, to really think about this for a second. Are you currently trapped in a cycle of just, well, average results? because you refuse to change your approach to finding new customers.
It's a tough question to face.
It really is. I mean, if you don't audit your strategy right now, today, you are absolutely leaving money on the table. And that is exactly what we are getting into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Glad to be here.
Today's mission is to explore Mark Hunter's insights from his book, High Profit Prospecting. We're specifically zeroing in on the chapter covering planning for high-profit customers.
Which is such a crucial chapter.
Totally. We are examining a stack of source material that basically breaks down the exact strategic and tactical questions you need to build a prospecting plan that actually works. So what are we getting into?
Well, in short, you are going to learn how to systematically audit your current sales process. You're going to learn how to actively reject the quote-unquote average customer and tailor your approach to attract high-profit buyers instead.
I love that. Rejecting the average.
Yeah, it matters for anyone in business or entrepreneurship because, honestly, a flawed plan doesn't just waste your time. It actively drains your future profitability.
It really does. And I think we need to start this off by talking about why your current plan might be failing in the first place, even if you've been super successful in the past.
Oh, this is the trap of past success. It's the illusion of transferable skills.
Exactly. The book has this really concrete example of Mark Hunter himself. It's October 1998, and he leaves this comfortable, secure corporate job.
Corner office and everything.
Right? Corner office, totally established. He leaves to start his own consulting business. And he just assumed that his past B2B methods, the stuff that made him so successful in the corporate world, would translate perfectly to his new business.
Which is such a natural assumption to make. You think, well, I know how to sell. I'll just do what I always do.
But he spent 18 agonizing months pushing this strategy that just did not fit his new reality. 18 months. Before he finally realized he had to completely change his approach.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because assuming a process that worked previously, or maybe for a past employer, will automatically work for your current situation, it's a fatal flaw.
It really is. It's like a champion surfer trying to use a surfboard on a snowy mountain.
Right, the environment completely changed.
Yeah, exactly. Just because you have a great tool doesn't mean it fits the environment. You can't catch a wave on a ski slope.
That's a great analogy. Because you cannot simply push harder on a broken process. If the surfboard isn't working on the snow, pushing it harder into the snow isn't going to make you go faster.
You're just going to freeze.
Exactly. So the big takeaway here for you listening is that you must step back and evaluate your current state without ego.
The ego is the hardest part to drop, I think.
It is, but you have to. And you have to look outside your own industry for fresh, effective ideas because what got you here won't necessarily get you there.
So true. So once you actually realize your process needs updating and you drop the ego, you run into the next hurdle.
The trap of average.
Right. Realizing that settling for a mediocre process basically just attracts mediocre customers.
It's a magnet for mediocrity. Look, prospects are not looking for average. They are looking to excel in their own businesses.
They want to win.
They want to win, and they want to work with people who share that drive. If you accept average in your own prospecting, you are basically issuing an open invitation for competitors to steal your business.
Because it's just status quo thinking, right? The text explicitly warns about this. It says that failing to question every single aspect of what you do means you are willing to be just average.
And average gets you ignored. If you want high-profit customers, your prospecting process must project high-value excellence.
You have to actively challenge your own status quo. So how do we actually do that? How do we stop being average?
Well, you have to measure where you currently stand, which brings us directly into the strategic audit.
Yes, the strategic audit. The why and the who of it all.
The book lays out 7 strategic questions that challenge how you and your customers actually perceive your process. And the core philosophy here, this is vital, is that it's not about what you think of your process.
It was what the customer thinks.
Exactly. Your opinion of your own sales pitch doesn't matter. The buyer's perception is the only reality.
So let's dissect a few of these questions. The first one from the sources list that really stuck out to me is my process compelling?
Right. Are you offering something that makes them actually want to engage?
Like if I'm a buyer and I get an email that just says, hey, can I have 15 minutes of your time to show you my product? That's not compelling. That's just a demand on my time.
No, it's annoying. A compelling process brings value before the sale even happens. You have to teach them something new or offer an insight that makes them think, wow, I need to talk to this person.
Okay, here is the second question, and I see this all the time. Does my process create false expectations?
Oh, the over-promising trap.
Yes. People get so desperate just to get a meeting, right? So they hint that their software can do something it actually can't, or that they can deliver in an unrealistic time frame.
Just to get their foot in the door.
Right. But what happens later? It sucks all the profit out of the deal when the customer demands what you hinted at, and you have to scramble to fulfill it.
It ruins the relationship and your margins. You spend all this unbillable time trying to fix a problem you created by overpromising.
It's terrible business. Okay, the third question from the audit. Is my process focused on pitching or learning?
This is where a lot of salespeople fail. Because if you are just sharing what you offer, just talking and talking rather than uncovering their information, you are going to get a high volume of no answers.
Nobody wants to be talked at for 30 minutes.
What's fascinating here is that the questions prospects ask you are actually the ultimate indicator of how they see you.
Wait, say more about that.
So if you just pitch features, they are going to ask you about price. They'll ask, how much is this, or can we get a discount? Because they just see you as a commodity vendor.
Ah, right.
But if you focus on learning, if you ask deep questions about their business problems, they start asking you strategic questions, like, how have you solved this for other companies? They start seeing you as a peer or consultant. It reveals their level of confidence in you.
That is such a subtle but massive shift. So the takeaway for you listening is to basically shift your entire prospecting mindset from telling people things to investigating their problems.
100%. But strategy is really only half the battle.
Right. Knowing why you are prospecting is great, but then you have to ruthless measure the mechanics of how you actually do it.
Which brings us to the tactical audit, the how and the what.
Yeah, the text introduces these 30 tactical questions, and they are designed to basically pull apart the individual components of your prospecting plan. Because you can't fix a leak if you don't know which pipe is broken.
Exactly. And 30 questions is a lot, so let's group a few critical ones to make them digestible. First up is sourcing and time.
Okay.
You need to know exactly where your leads come from. Are they referrals? Are they cold calls? And more importantly, how much time do you actually spend interacting with prospects versus just preparing to prospect?
Oh man, the preparation trap. People spend hours researching on LinkedIn and call it working.
It's just called reluctance disguised as productivity. You have to measure that ratio. Next is the financial ROI of your pipeline.
This one is huge.
You have to ask yourself, what is the 3-year value of a new customer in revenue and in profit? Not just top-line revenue, but actual net profit. What is the profit of an average transaction?
Because if you don't know that, you don't know how much time or money you can actually afford to spend acquiring them.
Precisely. If a client is only worth $500 in profit, you cannot afford to fly across the country to take them to dinner.
Right. And then there's customer motivation. Do they have to buy this thing, or is it discretionary? Are they buying to prevent a problem, or are they buying to enhance an opportunity?
Those are two entirely different psychological drivers. Selling risk prevention is totally different than selling growth.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. As I was going through these 30 tactical questions in the text, I realized something was missing. Out of 30 questions, not a single one asks about CRM software.
Isn't that wild?
It's crazy. Everyone is obsessed with their CRM tech stack these days. But the book just totally ignores it in the tactical audit.
And there is a very good reason for that. A CRM is just a tool. It is not a replacement for a human strategy.
Right. It's just a filing cabinet, basically.
Exactly. System errors rarely cause failure in prospecting. User errors do. If your messaging is terrible, or you are targeting the wrong people, putting that terrible process into an expensive CRM just means you are going to fail faster and more efficiently.
You're just automating bad habits. So the takeaway here is you have to do the math manually. Treat your pipeline like a literal science experiment.
Measure everything.
Yeah. Measure close ratios, transaction profit. Find out exactly where you are losing money before you try to automate anything.
Because once you've audited your strategy and your tactics, you have to apply this custom audit to the real world.
Right, because taking a generic plan and just unleashing it on a specific market is a recipe for total disaster.
You cannot copy someone else's successful plan. What works for a hyper-growth tech startup is not going to work for a heavy manufacturing company. Your plan has to fit the specific buying habits, timelines, and structures of your target market.
The book has this great story about a European-based general aviation company that illustrates this so well.
Oh, the salesperson who is failing miserably.
Yes, this guy was working so hard, but his plan was just to cold call private jet operators, list all of his services, and basically ask for an order right then and there.
Which is insane in that industry.
Right. He failed because he didn't realize that private jet operators already have incredibly established, trusted vendors for these safety-critical services. You don't just switch the company maintaining your jet engines because some guy cold called you on a Tuesday.
The risk is too high. If something goes wrong, people die.
Exactly. He didn't know who the actual decision maker was, and he didn't build any confidence first. He just pitched a laundry list of services to a cold lead.
Which you should never do. You have to understand your market's existing relationships and their buying cycles before you ever even pick up the phone.
So how do we avoid ending up like that aviation salesperson?
Well, the text actually provides a really specific framework to understand the market you are entering. It's a set of 7 market questions for segmentation.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, you have to ask, are you selling a consumable or a capital expenditure?
Wait, what's the difference in how you sell those?
It changes everything. A consumable means frequent contact is needed. They are reordering constantly. But a capital expenditure, like a $1 million piece of software that has a massively long approval process, it's a totally different sales cadence.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Then you need to ask if you are dealing with professional buyers, because procurement officers will completely ignore you until they are actually ready to buy. They don't care about your slick pitch.
They just want the specs and the price.
Exactly. And then there's the big question, are they already buying from a competitor?
Okay, I have to jump in here. Because if they are already buying from a competitor, shouldn't we just move on? Why waste the time trying to steal them away when we could just find someone who doesn't have a vendor yet?
It seems counterintuitive, I know, but if we connect this to the bigger picture, waiting for the incumbent competitor to stumble is actually a highly profitable strategy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Just waiting for them to mess up?
Think about it. This prospect already knows they need the service. They have the budget for it. The education phase is already done. If you have spent time building awareness with them, not pitching, just being helpful and staying on their radar, you are the very first call they make when their current vendor messes up.
Oh, wow. So you don't have to convince them they have a problem. You just have to be the alternative when they get mad at their current solution.
Exactly. It's incredibly lucrative. So the main takeaway here is that you must segment your prospects not by what you sell, but by who they are and the outcomes they expect.
You have to tailor the frequency, the timing, and the message to the individual prospect.
Always.
So what does this all mean? If we pull all these strategic audits, the tactical math, the market analyses into one cohesive truth, what is the soul of this chapter?
The soul of it is that high-profit prospecting is not a game of volume. It's not a game of luck. And it's definitely not about copying the latest trendy sales tactic you saw on LinkedIn. It is the rigorous, totally unsentimental auditing of your own process. You combine that honest audit with a highly calibrated approach that matches your message to the exact needs, the specific timelines, and the real financial realities of your ideal buyer.
Excellence in planning dictates excellence in profit.
Exactly.
I love that. Well, thank you to everyone listening for joining us on this deep dive into the architecture of a high-profit prospecting plan.
It's been a great discussion.
Now that you have the blueprint for your market, you know the next challenge, right? The next challenge is mastering the clock. Because a great plan means absolutely nothing if you can't conquer the time management tactics required to actually execute it.
Which is where so many people fall apart.
Yep, and that's what we'll tackle next time.
But before we go, I want to leave you with one final challenging thought, something to really mull over. If you had to throw away your entire current prospecting playbook tomorrow, just toss it all out and rebuild it based solely on what your most profitable, loyal customer told you they valued most about you. What is the very first thing you would change? Have you ever caught yourself saying, that you're just simply too busy to look for new opportunities?
Oh, all the time. It's so common.
Right. But then you panic, like 6 months later when your pipeline just completely dries up.
Yeah, exactly.
You sit down at your desk on the first of the month, you look at your projections, and you just feel that cold rush of anxiety hit your chest because, well, the numbers just aren't there.
It's the ultimate professional paradox, honestly. I mean, we convince ourselves that our current workload is a sign of success.
Right. The endless emails, the client fires.
The back-to-back meetings.
Yeah.
We wear that exhaustion like this badge of honor. But if you look closely at the mechanics of how businesses actually survive, that busyness is almost always masking a dangerous avoidance.
Avoidance of what, exactly?
Well, it's a psychological shield.
Uh-huh.
We use our existing safe clients to protect ourselves from the deeply uncomfortable work required to actually keep a business alive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, it's much easier to answer a question from someone who already pays you than it is to risk rejection from a total stranger.
That hits incredibly hard
Ah,
because it is arguably the most common socially acceptable excuse in the entire business world.
absolutely.
I mean, nobody questions you when you say, I'm slammed with client work. But today, we are going to expose that excuse for exactly what it is.
We really are.
So, for those of you listening, today we are unpacking a masterclass on time management tactics. This is a deep dive into Chapter 6 of Mark Hunter's book, High Profit Prospecting.
It's such a crucial chapter.
It really is. We are stripping away all the fluff today to focus entirely on how you manage the literal hours in your day. You're about to learn how to completely overhaul your calendar to guarantee a constant, predictable flow of new business.
And more importantly, you'll learn why rigorously protecting your time is the ultimate survival skill, whether you're in business, sales, entrepreneurship, whatever.
Right. So if we step back and look at the broader landscape of professional development, time management is usually pitched as just I don't know, a productivity hack.
Yeah, exactly. It's sold as a way to clear your inbox faster or, squeeze 3 more tasks into an hour so you can leave the office on time.
But that's not what this is about.
Not at all. In the context of revenue generation, time management is not a soft skill. It is literally the engine of your cash flow.
The actual engine.
Right. If you get the mechanics of this wrong, nothing else in your operational process actually matters. You can have the best product in the world, the most brilliant pitch.
A flawless closing technique.
Exactly. But if you don't manage your time to consistently put yourself in front of new people, all those skills are entirely useless because, well, you simply won't have anyone to sell to.
I want to start by exploring a scenario from the source material that perfectly illustrates this, because I know it's going to sound painfully familiar to a lot of you listening right now.
Oh, the agency story. Yeah, that one is rough.
It really is. So it involves this company filled with incredibly talented people, an agency doing high-end design work for the consumer goods industry.
Right.
And on paper, on their website, everything looked fantastic. Great branding, smart people, cool office vibes. But behind the scenes, their cash flow was an absolute nightmare.
Because they were trapped in a brutal cycle, the classic feast or famine cycle.
Right.
It is the silent killer of small to mid-sized enterprises. The business was entirely unstable. They were wildly fluctuating from record-breaking months to, periods where they could barely make payroll.
Which is terrifying for a business owner.
Terrifying. And when you trace the root of the problem, it pointed directly to leadership, specifically the vice president of sales.
Okay, so what was his deal?
Well, this VP operated with a philosophy that finding new business like the daily grind of outreach and qualification was essentially drudgery.
Drudgery, wow.
Yeah. He felt it didn't align with the fun, creative culture they were trying to build. And even worse, he believed it was beneath his veteran account managers.
So he thought his senior people shouldn't be doing it at all.
Exactly. He thought they should be strategizing and managing, not grinding away on the phones.
Let's dissect the psychology of that for a second, because it's fascinating. It's a massive status issue, right?
Oh, completely.
You have these account managers who have been in the industry for a decade. They view themselves as consultants, trusted advisors. To them, actively going out and hunting for new business feels like a regression.
Like they're 22-year-old rookies again.
Right. So they view finding new business as a punishment, or at best, this administrative chore, rather than the absolute core function of their job.
And because nobody was doing the outreach consistently, they would inevitably hit a wall.
Because the current work runs out.
Exactly. The active projects would wrap up, the invoices would be paid, and suddenly they would look around and realize there was literally no new work coming in.
And what was the VP's brilliant solution to this entirely preventable crisis?
The dreaded prospecting telethon.
Oh, man. Just the name sounds exhausting.
It's awful. The telethon is a symptom of a deeply broken culture. They would wait until the financial sky was falling, panic would set in across the executive team, and the VP would mandate a massive blitz.
So everyone just drops everything.
Yep, they would force everyone, regardless of their seniority or current workload, to drop absolutely everything. They'd order some pizzas, stay late, and hit the phones for a massive concentrated burst of outreach.
It is a complete systemic overreaction to a problem they actively engineered through their own negligence.
That's exactly what it is.
But hold on, let me represent the skeptic here for a minute. I want to challenge the idea this is inherently bad.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if you look at the results of those blitzes in the source material, they actually worked in the short term.
They did, yeah.
The documentation shows that during these panicked telethons, they would often unearth a massive piece of business. Someone would call the right person at the right time, a huge contract would magically fall out of the sky a day or two later, and boom, the company was saved.
Right, the whale.
Yeah. So if you are generating massive revenue spurts during these blitzes, isn't that proof the telethon model actually works? Like, if I'm a manager listening to this, why wouldn't I just run a high-energy blitz every time the pipeline looks a little thin?
That is exactly the trap. And it is a phenomenal question because it highlights how early success reinforces catastrophic habits.
Okay, so why is it catastrophic if it makes money?
The problem with the telethon isn't that it generates 0 leads. I mean, if you put 20 smart people in a room and force them to make calls for 8 hours, pure statistical probability dictates they will find something.
Right, it's just a numbers game at that point.
Exactly. The critical failure is what happens the day after the telethon.
Oh, nothing happens.
There's a complete and total lack of follow-through. Here's the mechanical breakdown of why this destroys a company. They generate this massive list of warm leads, right?
Okay.
Then they land one lucky, immediate deal that saves the quarter. They feel this immense sense of relief, and then they immediately revert to their baseline behavior.
So they just abandon all the other leads.
They abandon the 99% of leads that require long-term nurturing because they suddenly feel too busy servicing the single new whale they just landed.
Wow. It's the equivalent of crash dieting a week before a wedding.
That is a perfect analogy.
You know, you panic, you start yourself, you drink nothing but lemon water for 7 days, and you manage to squeeze into the suit. You get the immediate result you wanted.
But you haven't actually altered your underlying relationship with food or exercise.
Right, so the very next day, you're at the drive-thru. You haven't changed your lifestyle at all, you just deployed a temporary panic response.
And the danger of that crash dieting analogy is that it actually damages your metabolism in the long run, just like the telethon damages a business's revenue metabolism.
Because they stop planting seeds.
Exactly. When they land that big deal during the blitz, they spend the next 6 to 9 months entirely consumed by it. They ignore new business development completely.
And B2B sales cycles typically take months to mature, right?
They do. So the consequences of that neglect don't show up immediately. They show up 3 quarters later. The pipeline empties out. The big project ends. And right on schedule, the VP has to declare another state of emergency.
And launch another telethon.
Right. They have institutionalized a peak and valley syndrome. They are confusing adrenaline with strategy.
What fascinates me is the narrative the employees tell themselves in this situation. When these account managers were asked why they didn't follow up on the dozens of warm leads they generated, what was their excuse?
They said they were too busy taking care of the existing clients.
It sounds incredibly noble, doesn't it? Oh, I couldn't possibly prospect today. My clients need me.
It sounds great in a meeting.
But if we strip away the corporate speak, they were only too busy because they allowed themselves to be. They actively chose to prioritize low-value tasks for existing clients over high-value revenue generation.
They use the illusion of busyness as a shield.
Exactly. To avoid the drudgery of outreach.
And if you analyze this behavior through a behavioral economics lens, it makes perfect sense. Humans are hardwired to seek immediate gratification and avoid social friction.
And servicing an existing client provides immediate positive feedback.
Right. They like you, they thank you, you feel competent. But reaching out to a stranger, that involves a high probability of friction, rejection, or simply being ignored.
So without strict boundaries, our brains will naturally expand the time it takes to service existing clients to fill the entire workday.
Purely to crowd out the time we should be spending on outreach, yes.
Which reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of business development. Finding new business is not a secondary activity.
It really isn't. It's not something you reserve for a slow Tuesday afternoon when all your other work is perfectly finished, because let's be honest, that day will never arrive.
Consistency fundamentally beats intensity. You cannot wait for the machinery to grind to a halt before you start looking for oil. So the immediate practical reality check for you listening right now: do not wait for the panic. If you are having a record month, if your plate is overflowing and you feel like you couldn't possibly take on another client,
that exact moment is the most critical time to be looking for your next opportunity.
yes, because the work you do today is what pays you 6 months from now.
Which forces us to transition from the philosophical to the highly practical.
Okay, let's get into the how-tos.
Right. If we agree that consistency is the only way out of the feast or famine cycle, how do we actually structure an 8-hour day to ensure that consistency happens?
How do we build a fortress around that time?
This is where we need to examine a very strict, almost uncompromising mathematical formula for calendar management from the book. It is called the 4 quarters strategy.
I want to spend a lot of time on this because a typical professional's calendar is an absolute disaster.
Oh, a total mess.
Most people just reach out to prospects on a physical sticky note, slap it on their monitor, and vaguely hope they find a spare 30 minutes between endless Zoom calls.
Which never happens.
Never.
Yeah.
This strategy demands a completely different paradigm. It introduces the 25% rule, and it requires a level of discipline that borders on ruthless.
The premise is built on dissecting a standard 40-hour work week into 4 equal 10-hour quarters. And these are not flexible suggestions. These are rigid structural pillars.
Okay, walk us through the 4 quarters.
Quarter 1 is strictly dedicated to prospecting. This means actively developing, researching, and qualifying new leads.
Okay, that's 10 hours.
Right. Quarter 2 is allocated to existing accounts, servicing the clients you already have, managing relationships, and ensuring delivery.
Makes sense.
Quarter 3 is reserved for sales calls and proposals. This is the closing phase, where you are actively negotiating with people who have already entered your pipeline.
And the last quarter.
Finally, quarter 4 is for customer follow-up and administration, the inevitable internal meetings, the CRM updates, the expense reports, all of that.
Let's do the math on that. 25% of your time, 10 full hours a week, purely dedicated to finding new business. Yes.
For someone working a standard 5-day week, that's 2 hours every single day.
Yeah.
I'm going to push back hard on this on behalf of our listeners, because if I am an account executive or a business owner and I look at my reality, the Slack messages pinging, the urgent emails, the internal pipeline reviews my manager forces me to attend, I literally do not have 2 hours a day to just sit in a quiet room and prospect.
I hear that all the time.
Right. If I ignore my clients for 2 hours a day, things will catch on fire. How is this 25% rule actually sustainable in the real world?
It is sustainable because the alternative is bankruptcy. Whether that's financial bankruptcy for a company or career bankruptcy for an individual.
Okay, that's a harsh reality.
It is.
Yeah.
The objection you just raised, I don't have the time, things will catch on fire, is the exact psychological trap we discussed earlier.
Using busyness as a shield.
Exactly. You feel you don't have the time because you are allowing quarter 4 activities, the administrative trivia, to bleed into the rest of your day. The source material uses a brilliant framework to justify this non-negotiable stance, doesn't it?
Yes, the shower analogy. Think of prospecting like taking a daily shower. You don't just write, take a shower on your weekend to-do list and hope you get around to it if you have some free time on Sunday.
Right, that would be gross.
Exactly. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable practice of daily hygiene. It must be done every single day, and you automatically structure your morning routine around it.
So prospecting is the financial hygiene of your career.
Perfectly said. It must be physically blocked off on your calendar in bright red, and it must be defended with the same vigor you would defend a meeting with your absolute largest client.
That's a great way to put it, because if I cancel a meeting with my biggest client to answer internal emails, I'd be fired.
Immediately.
But we cancel our prospecting blocks all the time to answer internal emails, essentially firing our future selves.
We do it without a second thought.
I love the shower analogy, but let's break down the actual logic chain of why that 25% is the magic number.
It's an exercise in reverse engineering your revenue, right?
Precisely. The logic chain is an inescapable sequence of cause and effect. If you execute your prospecting block today, you generate qualified leads for tomorrow.
Okay, day 1 to day 2.
Right. Having qualified leads tomorrow means you have actual human beings to pitch and present to next week. Presenting to people next week means you are closing deals and driving revenue the week after that.
It is a linear conveyor belt.
That's exactly what it is. If you shut down the factory line at the very first station, the prospecting stage, for even a few days, that gap travels down the belt.
And it creates a massive hole later on.
Exactly. A month later, you have no presentations. 2 months later, you have no closed deals. The entire financial engine stalls. You cannot cheat the math.
If 25% of your time isn't dedicated to feeding the front of the machine, the back of the machine will inevitably run out of product.
It's unavoidable. So I want to challenge you, the listener, to perform a brutal, honest audit of your calendar the minute you finish listening to this deep dive.
Highly recommend doing this.
Look back at the last 5 business days. Did you actually spend 10 hours, 25% of your working time, actively seeking out new opportunities.
Did you have those hours blocked, and did you actually respect them?
Right. Because if the answer is no, if you spent 15% or 5%, the mathematics of business dictate that you are accelerating toward a massive valley in your cash flow. It is not a possibility, it is a certainty.
And executing this audit requires confronting a very uncomfortable truth about how we navigate corporate environments.
Which is what?
Your calendar, by default, will always try to self-fill with quarter 4 activities.
Oh.
The internal ecosystem of any company is designed to generate administrative busywork.
Oh, absolutely. Answering emails, putting out minor client fires, attending status meetings that could have been an email.
These tasks are seductive. They feel urgent because someone is usually asking you for them, and they feel productive because you get to check a box.
But checking a box doesn't pay the bills.
No. You have to recognize that internal administrative work has a 0% return on investment when it comes to future revenue. You have to treat that 25% prospecting block as sacred ground.
So you have to train your colleagues.
Yes, you have to train your colleagues, your clients, and sometimes even your managers that you're completely unreachable during that window.
Okay, let's talk about the reality of what happens when we do manage to block that time. Let's say I've listened to this, I'm highly motivated, I've blocked out Tuesday morning from 9:00 a.m. to 11:00.
A solid block.
Right. I've told my team I'm offline, I sit down at my desk. This brings us to a concept that, frankly, is deeply humiliating to admit because we're all guilty of it.
Oh, I know where this is going.
It's the trap of fake work.
Ah, yes. The illusion of execution. It is the most sophisticated lie professionals tell themselves.
Because thinking about doing the work or preparing to do the work is absolutely not the same thing as actually doing the work.
Not even close.
Let's walk through the anatomy of a failed prospecting block. You sit down at 9 a.m., you open your laptop, what do?
You don't pick up the phone, that's for sure.
Exactly. First, you open your CRM. You notice a few accounts have outdated information, so you spend 15 minutes cleaning up the data.
Naturally.
Then you decide you need a better email template, so you spend 20 minutes reading articles on the best subject lines and tweaking your copy.
Which feels very productive.
Then you need to find the perfect target, so you spend 30 minutes scrolling through LinkedIn, cross-referencing titles, and building a list.
And looking at the clock.
Suddenly, it's 10:50 a.m., you have 10 minutes left in your sacred block, you panic, you send 2 emails, and the block is over. You spent 2 hours working on sales, but you made 0 meaningful external contacts.
You have completely confused preparation with execution. And it is vital to understand that this isn't necessarily laziness. It is a biological defense mechanism.
Wait, biological?
Yeah. Both preparation and execution are absolutely necessary for success, but they require entirely different cognitive states.
Yeah.
And they cannot occupy the same space on your calendar.
I want to use an analogy here, and I want to really dig into it because I think it perfectly captures the physical sensation of this fake work.
Let's hear it.
It's like deciding you want to get into shape. You block out time to go to the gym. You spend 30 minutes researching the perfect weightlifting routine on YouTube.
We've all been there.
You meticulously curate a high-energy Spotify playlist. You put on your expensive athletic gear. You drive to the gym, park the car, walk inside, and spend 45 minutes doing dynamic stretches on a mat.
Getting properly warmed up.
Exactly. You feel your heart rate go up a bit, you feel focused, and then you turn around, walk out, get in your car, and drive home without ever touching a single dumbbell.
And the most dangerous part of that analogy is what happens in your brain on the drive home. You actually feel fatigued.
You feel a sense of accomplishment.
Right. You tell yourself, I spent 2 hours on my fitness today. You have successfully triggered the dopamine release of completing a task, preparing to work out without enduring the physical micro-tears and muscle fatigue required to actually build strength.
That is so true. In the business context, you leave that 2-hour block feeling exhausted and productive because you organized your spreadsheets.
You convinced your brain you did the work.
But the bank account, just like the muscle, hasn't changed at all because it was never subjected to actual resistance.
Exactly.
So how do we fix this? How do we stop our brains from hijacking our execution time? Because willpower clearly isn't enough when we're fighting our own neurology.
You have to build a physical and temporal firewall between preparation and execution. You must mentally and physically separate your prep time from your action time.
So they can't bleed together.
Right. The strategy here from the text is highly specific. You need to estimate how much time you think you need to research and build your lists. Double that amount of time, because we always underestimate it.
We always do.
And then schedule that preparation block entirely outside of your execution window, ideally on a completely different day or at a completely different energy state.
Okay, make this incredibly concrete for me. If my sacred execution block is Tuesday morning at 9:00 a.m., what does my Monday look like?
If you are executing on Tuesday at 9:00 a.m., your research and list building must happen on Monday afternoon.
Okay.
Say Monday at 4:00 p.m. when your cognitive energy is typically lower and you don't have the adrenaline required for live conversations. You use that low energy time to do the safe administrative work of building the list, writing the scripts, and pulling the phone
You
numbers.
create the runway.
Yes, you create the runway before you try to fly the plane.
Because if you try to build the runway while you're flying the plane, you crash. If you combine them in the same block on Tuesday morning, the preparation will invariably expand to consume the entire block.
Every single time.
Why? Because preparation is safe. Organizing a spreadsheet cannot reject you. A CRM system cannot hang up the phone on you or tell you your product is too expensive.
Execution, actually reaching out and interrupting a stranger's day, is inherently uncomfortable.
It's terrifying for some people.
It is. Our brains are evolutionary machines designed to seek safety and conserve energy. If you give your brain the choice between the safe task of researching and the dangerous task of calling, it will choose research 100% of the time.
So you have to remove the choice.
Exactly the mechanism at play. When the clock strikes 9:00 a.m. on Tuesday, there should be zero decisions left to make.
None.
You do not open a browser to search for names. You open a static document that has 50 names, 50 phone numbers, and the exact reason you are calling them.
So you go into the execution window mentally primed for action.
Yes. If you open your laptop cold during that blocked time and think, okay, who should I reach out to today? Your success rate will be absolute zero.
Because you will spend the time getting ready to get ready.
Exactly. The discipline is in building the runway beforehand, so when the execution timer starts, you are simply pushing the throttle and taking off.
This requires a massive shift in how we view our own time. It means protecting yourself from your own sophisticated procrastination habits.
It's hard work, but it's necessary.
I want you to remember this rule. Your blocked calendar hours only count toward your 25% quota if they result in real external conversations. Internal organization simply does not count.
Which brings us to the next massive variable in the book, and frankly, a frequent point of failure in time management.
Where do people go wrong next?
Well, so far we've talked about how to manage your own internal calendar. But there's a second clock ticking, and if you ignore it, all of your preparation and execution blocks are worthless.
A second clock.
I'm talking about the synchronization of your clock versus your buyer's clock.
Oh, wow. This is a paradigm shift. We spend so much time obsessing over our own morning routines and our own peak productivity hours, but we completely forget that the person on the other end of the phone has a schedule too.
Exactly. The fundamental question you have to ask yourself is, does my clock match my prospect's clock?
It forces a necessary outward perspective. Let's look at the mechanics of failure here. You might have perfectly absorbed everything we've discussed so far.
You've separated prep from execution.
You've boldly blocked out Tuesday at 10 a.m. for cold outreach because you've read that you are most energized and mentally sharp mid-morning. You sit down, you have your list, you are ready to conquer the world.
Sounds perfect, right?
But if you are selling enterprise software and the VP-level decision makers you're trying to reach are perpetually locked in mandatory executive steering meetings every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. across the industry.
Your perfectly optimized schedule is entirely, utterly useless.
Right. I want to use a different analogy here to really nail down why this matters. Think about trying to merge onto a busy highway.
Oh, I like this.
You might personally prefer driving at 45 miles per hour because it feels safe, and you've decided that's your optimal cruising speed.
Sure.
But if the traffic on the highway is moving at 75 miles per hour and you try to merge at 45, you are going to cause a massive collision.
You'll get crushed.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what your preferred speed is. The market is the highway. You have to match the speed and the rhythm of the traffic you are trying to enter, or you will be violently rejected.
If your internal schedule and your prospect's availability conflict, the prospect's availability must win every single time.
That is the golden rule. The market reality dictates your behavior, not your internal convenience.
And there is a brutal cautionary tale from the book that illustrates how often companies get this catastrophically backwards.
Oh, the sales manager story. Tell that one.
It's wild. It involves a sales manager who essentially sabotaged his entire department through sheer administrative arrogance.
Okay, what did he do?
This manager noticed that his team was struggling with pipeline, so he wanted to do a weekly pipeline review meeting. He looked at the data and realized that Friday mornings were statistically the absolute best time to reach their specific target demographic.
Okay, so decision makers were at their desks, in a good mood, wrapping up the week, and highly receptive to calls.
Exactly. Prime selling time. So what did the manager do? He scheduled a mandatory 2-hour internal team meeting every Friday morning.
It is almost comical how destructive that is. But let's look at why he did it. Because he didn't do it maliciously, right?
No, he thought he was being efficient.
He did it because Friday morning was the only time he could guarantee everyone would definitely be in the office and not out in the field.
Right. He prioritized his own administrative convenience, the ease of getting his team in one room, over the market reality of when their buyers were actually available to buy.
It is the ultimate failure of leadership. By scheduling that internal meeting during prime revenue-generating hours, that manager unintentionally gave his entire team a company-sanctioned excuse to fail.
He essentially said, I know this is when the fish are biting, but I demand you sit in this room and look at spreadsheets with me instead.
And he destroyed their quotas because he valued his internal clock over the synchronization with the buyer's clock.
Absolutely.
So if you are listening to this and you realize you have to fish when the fish are biting, it means you have to adapt, even if it's deeply inconvenient.
You have to. If you are selling to restaurant owners, you do not call them at 12:30 p.m. during the lunch rush, even if 12:30 p.m. happens to be your designated color-coded prospecting block.
Right? You adapt to them. You call them at 9:00 a.m. when they are prepping, or 3:00 p.m. during the lull.
And here is where the rubber meets the road on calendar management. Once you identify the optimal window for your specific buyers, you have to fiercely, almost aggressively protect that window from internal company distractions.
This is the hard part.
It is. If you discover that Thursday evenings at 5:30 p.m. are surprisingly the highest converting time to reach your prospects because the gatekeepers have gone home, you have to defend that time.
Defend it from who?
Everyone. You have to defend it from needy clients who want a late-day status update. You have to defend it from administrative wrap-up work. And, most difficult of all, you have to learn how to defend it from your own leadership.
That's the real challenge, right? Let's role play that for a second. If my VP schedules a mandatory meeting during my prime execution block, how do I push back without getting fired? I mean, I can't just say, I'm not coming.
No, you can't just refuse. You handle it by speaking their language, the language of revenue.
Okay, how does that sound?
You do not frame it as a refusal. You frame it as a strategic trade-off. You go to your VP and say, I see we have a pipeline review scheduled for Friday morning.
Right.
Based on my data over the last quarter, Friday morning is the only window where I have a 40% connection rate with our Tier 1 targets.
Okay, leading with data.
Exactly. Then you say, if I sit in the review meeting, I will miss that window and my pipeline generation for the week will drop by half. Can I send you my metrics Thursday night so I can stay on the phones Friday morning?
Wow. 9 out of 10 competent leaders will instantly cancel the meeting or excuse you from it.
Because you just demonstrated that you care more about generating revenue than they do. You are managing up by synchronizing with the market.
That is a masterclass in boundary setting. Okay, so let's summarize where we are on this journey.
It's been a lot.
We have audited our time. We have ruthlessly blocked our 25%. We have successfully built the firewall between fake work and real work. We have analyzed the market and synchronized our clocks with our buyers.
So the runway is clear.
The runway is clear. We take off. We finally make the calls. We send the highly targeted emails. We execute perfectly. We should be swimming in cash, right? What happens next?
Because the strategy has a very stern, almost counterintuitive warning about the aftermath of this execution.
The warning is simple, but its implications are profound. Do not start a process. You do not have the capacity to finish.
Okay, what does that mean? We need to address a massive misconception about what prospecting actually is. The vast majority of professionals believe prospecting is the act of making an initial call or sending an initial email.
Right, checking the box.
But the statistical reality of business development is that the initial contact almost never results in an immediate sale. The initial contact is just a flare in the night sky.
Just getting their attention.
Prospecting, in its true form, is entirely about the consistency of touches over a long period to build awareness, establish authority, and earn trust.
I see this point of failure constantly, especially with the rise of automated software.
Oh, it's so bad with automation.
Someone listens to a deep dive like this, they get highly motivated, they decide they're going to conquer the world on a Tuesday. They build a list of 500 contacts, they load them into an automated sequencer, and they blast out 500 emails in a single afternoon.
Or they drink 3 cups of coffee and make 100 rapid-fire cold calls.
Yeah. And at 5:00 p.m., they sit back and feel incredibly productive. They think they just crushed their 25% block. But the reality is, they just created a time management disaster.
Because they have initiated a scale of communication that they cannot possibly sustain. Let's do the math on the follow-up.
Let's do it.
If you send 500 targeted emails and you get a very modest 10% engagement rate, people asking for a brochure, asking a clarifying question, or requesting a quick 5-minute chat that is 50 replies.
50 replies.
Do you actually have the blocked time in your calendar for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to handle 50 customized, meaningful follow-ups?
Probably not.
Handling a good reply takes time. You have to research their specific question, formulate a thoughtful response, and propose next steps. If each reply takes just 15 minutes to handle properly, 50 replies equals 12.5 hours of work.
Wow. So if you haven't blocked 12.5 hours in your immediate future, you are going to drop the ball.
You will ignore hot leads. You just burned 50 potential relationships because you prioritized initial volume over follow-up bandwidth.
I want to paint a picture of this because it's so critical. It's like deciding you want a beautiful farm. So you go out into a massive field and you plant 1,000 seeds in a single day.
Okay, I see where this is going.
You work from dawn till dusk. You are exhausted and you are incredibly proud of yourself. But you know for an absolute fact that your well only holds enough water to sustain 100 plants. What happens?
They all die.
Right. The initial effort, the exhausting labor of planting is completely and utterly wasted. You didn't build a farm. You just buried 1,000 seeds so they could wither and die.
The initial action is irrelevant if the environment cannot sustain the follow-through.
And in business, ignoring a prospect who actually took the time to reply to your cold outreach is worse than never contacting them at all. It actively damages your brand reputation.
The dynamic is exactly the same. The practical takeaway here fundamentally alters how you plan your month. You must factor your follow-up capacity into your initial time management planning.
So it requires a holistic view of your calendar.
Absolutely. Before you initiate any block of outreach, you have to look at your schedule for the next 2 to 3 weeks and ask yourself a sobering question.
Which is?
If I am wildly successful today, if 20% of these people want to talk to me next week, do I have the bandwidth to properly nurture these relationships?
And if the answer is no.
If you look at next week and see that you are traveling for a conference or bogged down in quarterly reviews, you must actively scale back your initial outreach today.
You only plant the seeds you can water.
You only plant the seeds you can water. You must prioritize quality and consistent nurturing over unsustainable ego-driven volume.
It all comes back to a deeply unsexy word, doesn't it?
Discipline.
Pure discipline. It is about being brutally realistic with our time and capacity, rather than operating on false optimism. We have covered an immense amount of ground today, navigating the psychology of avoidance all the way to the mathematics of follow-up.
It's a lot to take in. But if we synthesize all of these complex mechanics into a single, cohesive operating philosophy, it is this. Time management in the context of business survival is not about efficiently squeezing more random, low-value tasks into an 8-hour day so you can alleviate your anxiety and feel busy.
It's not about inbox zero.
No. True time management is about ruthlessly, unapologetically defending the specific 25% of your calendar that guarantees you will have a business 6 months from now.
Breaking the feast or famine cycle permanently.
Exactly. You must treat your revenue-generating time with the exact same non-negotiable respect as your daily hygiene. You must build a firewall to stop confusing preparation with execution. You must humble yourself and align your schedule with your buyer's reality. And you must possess the discipline to only start the conversations you actually have the resources to finish.
I want to leave you with a challenge. Look at your calendar right now. Seriously, pull up your phone or your laptop.
Do it right now.
If a completely objective stranger, someone who doesn't care about your excuses or your internal company politics, audited how you spent every hour of your time last week, what would they conclude your actual job title is?
That's a scary question.
Does your calendar reflect the reality of a person who is actively, systematically growing a business? Or does it reflect someone who is simply hiding behind the comfortable illusion of busyness?
Something to really think about.
Now that you possess the mechanics to aggressively carve out the perfect time in your calendar to find new business, you face a new problem. How do you make absolutely sure you aren't wasting those precious hard-won hours talking to people who look great on paper but will never, ever actually buy from you?
That is the next hurdle.
We are going to tackle exactly how to spot the fakes and qualify your targets in our next deep dive.
What you just listened was the beginning of a full audio, way longer, explaining every single chapter of the book. If you would like to keep listening to the end and access to the full audio, you can access it with the link down below in the description and in the pinned comment.